Okay, so here we are again for the Now Reality podcast with Lady Colleen Heller, and my special guest today is.
Andreia Soares, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. We spoke about doing this podcast for a little while. I really wanted to introduce a healing technique I developed after my near-death experience in 2020. It's called V.E.M.S, and it took 3 years to develop. And most of the testing is done with students or clients or willing participants who want to learn how to do this technique, because what it does is it actually balances the entire system in 8 minutes. So,
Which is amazing.
yeah, and it's fun. The thing
Yes,
about doing these techniques is you don't want to be feeling stressed out doing them, because stressed out means making more stress in. And
right.
VEMS is not that. But learning it can be a little bit uncomfortable until you get it down. So you take your time, you do it in pieces.
Yeah. Kind of like anything, right? Practice makes perfect. So it's
Yeah.
almost like just got a repetition, repetition.
Repeat, but also repeat in increments. Repeat this till you have it. People like to repeat the whole thing and then they miss parts, because it's still 8 minutes. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
30 seconds later, which is what most Americans like. In fact, most
Yeah.
people like, because mostly we're lazy. We want to,
It just used to the instant gratification,
oh my
really.
gosh. Oh my gosh. But
You
anyway, so
know,
we are lazy. We like it snappy tappy and also we're out, or we're out. It's like, but that also can come from a whole lot of different things. But today we are talking about VEMS,
yes.
and it's necessity to me for people to be in their best from the moment they wake. It's something you can do more than one time in a day. I particularly like it in the morning because I wake up and you don't know how you slept. Did you have bad dreams? What side of the bed did you get on? Did you sleep at all? Did you wake up a lot? So when you're up in the morning, the first thing you want to do is to make sure you're completely lined up. And VEMS allows that. And it affords that. So Andrea, tell us
Yes.
about what you know of VEMS.
Yeah. Well, I was introduced to VEMS. When was it? I think maybe 2022 when
Mhm.
you first started to, um, you know, when you started to show us on on our insights class that we attend. So, we started just doing it, the things that you were sharing with us, and um, I mean, even at that point in my life, there was just a drastic change, like, and not I mean, it ended up manifesting into the external, right? Into the 3D, are around me, but it was internal first, which felt amazing and was amazing. But you've also made some changes to that along the way and really perfected what VEMS was or and what it is. So as far as you know, just learning, constantly learning and growing and just adapting to the VEMS, has just been an amazing journey and one that I absolutely love and I'm
Well,
grateful for.
that's great to hear. One of the things about VEMS, besides what I said, is it gets you lined up. It works on the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, the vagus nerve, the all the systems that handle cortisol levels and deep issues with stress and anxiety, causing disease and then later disease. So nipping it now or working on these things, even if you did it 3 times a week, that's 3 times better than it would be if you didn't do it. Now, the people that have done it experientially have noticed, like Andrea just said, it was a great feeling, felt good from the beginning. And that's true. But as always with me, because I'm a scientist uh, at heart, I have to experience over and over and over and watch and watch and watch and then adjust and change. So VEMS today is not what VEMS was in 2021, wasn't in 2022, wasn't in 2023, and 2024, it's different too. But it has stayed steady for about 8 months now,
Yeah.
because we go in and out of it. There's so many things I teach at Insights that the projects take over, and asking people to do more than one thing can be trying. So VEMS, I want them to kind of like incorporate it. And also the new VEMS part will be splitting them. So instead of them
Yeah,
being just 1/8, it'll be a 4 and 4. So
yeah,
minutes. So
yeah.
that's coming.
That's awesome. No, but definitely. But even with the different projects, right? It almost for everyone you can figure out where because everyone's different, just like so it's almost like they can help work at their own pace at the same time, but at the same time also, figure out, oh, did this project work for me? Because sometimes some projects work for some people and they don't work for others, right? But that also might be because, they're not putting in as much effort either, which is, completely theirs, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But, it's just I enjoy the projects because at the end of the day, we're learning, we're growing, and you're in our community. So it's just like great. And then they're just self-healing things. Like you said, getting ahead of the dis-ease before it becomes a disease. Like that part is super, super important. And if people knew that they had the opportunity to even have that, wouldn't they take I would take it.
Well, don't
I don't
forget, self-healing was not supported from when you were when you were born. For
Yeah,
years, as soon as the big pharma came out, self-healing went out the window. We only had herbalism, tonics, tinctures, which is how I started, period. I started with plants,
yeah,
trees, making my own medicine. I started with that. In fact, when I did that, I had to become a church legally, because if I didn't, then I couldn't give this information out because it was illegal, but I could give it to my churchgoers. So they would
yeah.
come as a client, they'd sign that they were part of the church, and then I could administer herbal medicine. That's
Wow.
and that was in 79, 80. So, it's not that long ago that we got
Yeah,
squished. But just think of all those kids born after that time. Kids
yeah,
born in the 70s, kids born in the 80s, they were never told self-healing was an option. And
yeah,
now,
no.
now we're going back to, oh, don't forget they're self-healing. Oh, really? It's hard to believe. Yeah, everyone's skeptical. I can't blame them. But today we're going to talk about how VEMS can help change that mindset. And it's by experience that you understand it. If it works for you, it works for you. If you think it doesn't work for you, what did you lose? 8 minutes? I don't think you're gonna have that problem, though. I think you are going to find something very interesting with them.
Yeah,
So what did you've been
for sure.
practicing it, so why don't you ask me something that you have about VEMS?
I mean, the first
Mm.
thing I want to ask is, what does V.E.M.S mean? I think that, that people are definitely wondering what V.E.M.S means.
So VEMS is an acronym. It means vibrational, energetic, movement, and sound, V.E.M.S. All right. And breathing is implied. You have to breathe, obviously. So I don't talk about the breath patterning so much in VEMS now. I do a lot more with breath patterning over the last 2 years than in the first years, but it is all part of VEMS as well. But that's not the focus. The focus is vibration, energetics, movement, and sound. That's what VEMS means.
That's awesome. And what would you say, for those who maybe can't differentiate the difference between vibration and energetics, what would you say that is?
So for me, when I use the word, I've been doing energetic and vibrational healing all of my life. I was one of those people that fell into the love of their life and stayed with it. I did not go off it. My passion for my work has never changed, and it is what I still do today. So almost 5 decades of doing
That's beautiful.
oh, decades, but it's true. And I'm proud of my work. But what made it easier for me with VEMS was that I know the difference between the vibrational field and the energetics. Energetics get you there. You have to have the energy to get you to that field. The vibrational field is an existing field. It exists in many levels and it is vast. It is huge. And how you rise through energy to get there is how you find the field of which you shall flow from. In VEMS, it doesn't matter. Oh, did I get to here so I could do a better job? You get to where you're supposed to be. And in that place, you heal. And then you'll go higher next time. And then in that place you'll hear. And that's why the symbology is important. Okay, so anyway, let's
Yes.
go on to does that answer your question? Do you
It
feel
does.
that way?
No, definitely. I think, it definitely does. And when it comes to, you know, since I've done it for so long, there's also some parts that are incorporating movement and speaking, right? So why are those involved?
So the I say so a lot. So
It's okay.
your body's favorite sound is your own voice. Everyone thinks the favorite sound is what they're hearing from music, whatever. No, music, all types of music we hear, are all those sounds. Sometimes it's just drumming, it's just basic. Sometimes you hear the rain hit the roof, or I love when rain hits tin roofs because it makes all kinds of really pitchy sounds I'm not used to. Um, so it could
I
be
never
anything that creates a sound. They all have feelings. They all not have feelings. They bring feelings up that you already have inside you. So they're emotional. When we do sounds with words, they have their own texture. They're coming from your own voice level. You're comfortable. But during VEMS, I have you change that up. So you're not just coming from here. You're coming from here. You're coming from there. You're laughing through it. You're very serious through it. So VEMS allows you your choice to choose the sound tone you want to use for that part. And I always tell everyone when you're doing VEMS, change it up. Don't just keep doing the same tone level.
same
Change it
tone.
up.
Yeah.
Also, I say, okay, you're on stage. Now say it. And okay. And so now I know they're lifting higher. So that's why there's sound.
Yeah, that I love that. I love that. I mean, I've enjoyed the whole BEMS healing. I've enjoyed it. It's helped me on my journey, so I I do love it. Okay, so the next thing that I was wondering, because I just want to just share like for me and my experience, right? In the past, or I'm gonna say in when we first I don't know when it was, but you had brought it up in insights, and there's two parts. There's the shadow part, right? And then there's the what's the second part called?
It's the movement.
Okay. So and then there's the movement part. How did you, or I'm going to say like what's the difference between each of those parts? So there's a shadow part, right? And then there's the movement part. Um, and one of the differences that I know, right, from doing the modality is that in the shadow, my eyes are covered. I'm wearing something over my eyes. So, my brain is taking it differently. And I know that in the movement aspect of it, I'm not. We
Right.
pull we
Correct.
pull that down. So what kind of difference does that create in the VEMS modality?
So
Or
when
what's
I
the purpose for it? Maybe if that's a better question, sorry.
that's fine. VEMS was first created from my near-death experience. And I was in my shadow thinking I was dying, which was to me okay at the time. Um, I was in that shadow place, and then I emerged from it when whatever said get up. I was like, get up. What? Get up. I can't even see where I am. And then when I did sit up in the bed and then stand up, the gray just kind of parted, and all of a sudden there was enough light in the dark of the night to see to go to wash up, to go to the
Yeah,
bathroom and clean up. When VEMS came to being, it started shortly after I started Insights. It was like, wow, like within 6 months, I was into creating this new modality out of force. It's like, do I need to do something else? I nearly died, then I nearly died again, and now you want me to make a new technique. Yay. But it turned out that it actually helped me get over a lot of things that had happened to my body from having severe COVID. Um,
wow.
from kidneys and heart and lungs. And I was just really, it wasn't good. So VEMS came from the shadow. So I didn't add the shadow in until later because shadow wasn't in the beginning. I came from that. So I started in the movement part. I started understanding the movement part first. That took, I had a person work with me. She was an insider 3 times a week for months, 3 times a week for months,
Yeah.
writing how you are coming in, writing how you are going out, a whole bunch of information on what was happening. And then, how's your life at home? How are you feeling? And her changes, and even her therapist was like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working for you. So
Yeah.
that was really promising, but I didn't add the shadow at that time. So the movement itself, which is why it's V.E.M.S, movement and sound, that part is about you being involved in the answer in your now reality, where you are now, right now.
Like
Shadow,
in your physical body.
well, in your physical space,
Yeah.
your place, whatever your place is, you're in it. So you're in it and around you. So it was about being well from well in to well out. It wasn't about going out and seeking. It was about you are it. You can self-heal, and this is what we're going to do to get there. So that's how that started. And then later on, like maybe, I don't know, 6 months later, I started bringing in the shadow first. And we already do not often, but mostly, well, often now, I think I have you wear eye masks when we do our meditations because I don't want you in this world. I want you removed. And what you see is what you believe. It's right in front of you. So if you're looking at the light while you're trying to do meditation, you're looking at the light. Your brain cannot multitask. It's looking at the light, and that's what it's doing. So when you cover, it's dark, and when it's dark, it is all internal, it is all within, and gets to a deeper place within yourself. That's what V.E.M.S does. But the shadow of V.E.M.S includes movement and the sound, because I created a sound that goes with the entire movement besides your words that come in the second part. In the shadow part, it's just the sounds that you're given from what we created and your movement. So it was two
Yeah.
separate things at first, and then I put them together and made them one.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I mean, for me, I just at first, when you first introduced it, you did start with the movement and sound part of it. And then I know that we incorporated the shadow aspect of it. I at first, when it came to the shadow aspect of it, I can't say that when I did it back in 2022, I believe it was, that I understood it. I was just more of like, okay, like I'm feeling into this. I can feel into this. Where now when I do V.E.M.S, it's like, oh no, I'm going in into my shadow. And it's so interesting just to see the difference in just even from that time frame to now, and being able to tell, and even in myself, in my body, and in my space when I'm doing V.E.M.S. So that's something that I personally enjoy to reflect on at times, to see the growth, if that makes sense. Because it's just like, oh, yeah, I give myself a little pat on the shoulder, like, okay, look at you. You know, and even if I'm getting into the uncomfortable thing, another thing was, in the past, in 2022, when I did it, I was, especially with the shadow aspect, I was feeling into myself more, right? Where now, especially with the shadow part, I'm feeling into the surroundings, like to just the energetic feeling around me than I am into myself. I mean, it all works together, but it's just different.
Okay,
What would
so
you
let me just talk about that first. When
Yeah,
you are doing V.E.M.S now and you've had experience, and we've been talking since I've been giving you information because we were doing this podcast. I wanted you to be sure you were doing V.E.M.S and really just take up, be part of the whole space that you own. Well, your extension of yourself is now is what you're adding. Before you didn't, it was closed in, it was all here. And now this is Andrea. So your extension of you is what you're working with, but it is still internal, but it
yeah,
doesn't feel so tight. because there's
No.
more air, there's more room. That comes with time.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. And that's why you feel like you're more around. I'm not as internal, but you are internal. And I challenge that when you're in shadow. And how do you feel when you're in shadow versus when you're out of shadow, when you're doing the movement? That
Yeah.
whole thing takes trust in yourself because no one thinks they have to trust themselves to do anything. But you
Yeah.
have to. You have to trust yourself that you are doing what's right and it's working and you're involved. You trust yourself. You're fearless. And whenever you
Yeah.
put black over, dark over anything, the first thing you do is fear. However,
Yeah.
but since you have been working this way, you aren't afraid of being in the dark and feeling and being in your space. That space is just an
Yeah.
expression of you.
Correct.
So that's why
Yeah.
that's like that for you.
Yeah. Which, and I'm sure, like other insights, peers,
Insiders, yeah.
yeah, insiders, they might have a different experience, right? With their shadow aspect than I do, but I still find so much just joy in the differences and in um going within now versus being in fear.
Yeah. So fearlessness, really, if we could just conquer fear in our lives, that would be great. However, fear does have a role, but it
Yes.
shouldn't inhibit you from stepping forward into something you're not really sure about. VEMS, we did in a group, we did individually as well. So people, even though they weren't comfortable doing that because your eyes are closed and you're expressing yourself and I'm watching, that is kind of fearful. Oh my God, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Oh, did I turn, or, this is stupid. Why am I even doing this? All these things that come up when you're blindfolded. However, the most important thing about having movement and blindfolded is, am I going to get hurt? Is something going to attack me? Is something coming from behind me? Am I going to trip? Am I going to fall in front of myself? Am I going to lose my balance?
Yeah.
What if the cat comes through and jumps on me? And that kind of fear sits there because that's
Yeah.
in your upbringing. So
Yeah.
your subconscious knows this. It's a protector. So sometimes, which happened to you too, you get a little staccato because you're also trying to defend yourself at the same time.
Same time. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't know you're doing it. But
No.
as you go,
Yeah.
right, then you just start to let loose, and all of a sudden it's like this beautiful thing happening.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, like in my experience, especially with that shadow part, I can feel in my body, and I'm sure it happened before as well, but like if I'm tense in certain areas, and then it makes me want to like, oh, I need to like move that. Like, I don't know what that is. But just being more in tune with with the energetic around me while I'm in the shadow more and more has allowed me to create more flow. Right. So I'm more in a flow with the energetic around me versus trying to do what I'm thinking, right? That subconscious thing that you're speaking about of what it is versus like releasing that control.
Yeah, it's
Just
100% like no.
and just flowing with it, which is that I guess maybe that fear of like, "Whoa, I'm not controlling this."
Yeah, but what else happens to you is
Mm.
when you move your body like that and you're in that fearless state, all the way down to your toes because you're moving. It is like a
Yeah,
cat claw through the entire body. When
yeah,
you're doing that kind of movement, you're allowing yourself to let go of old fears that come up. So if you were just standing there and covered, it'd be a whole nother situation. Then if you're hearing that sound, you're moving your body to it, you're reaching, you're extending, you're part of the music of the flow, like you said, then it's a whole nother thing, which is why it's so important to do the shadow side with thems.
with
Because
them, yeah,
that energetic movement, that vibrational field is unknown. You
yeah,
can't see it. So you can't believe it from there. You have to believe it from here.
yeah,
Experience.
and feel
Yeah. Yeah.
that emotion, that feeling part for sure. Um, and I know that, we can move from the shadow aspect of it, or my
Yeah.
questions from there, and I have some questions for the energetic and movement part of it. with the energetic and movement part of it, there are certain symbols. And what would you say those symbols mean?
So the symbology is there purposefully because when we create space, we have our space. When we accept space, it's different. But when we create space outside of that, which is what you tend to keep doing, you're not stagnant. No vibrational field is stagnant. No energetic reaching is stagnant. It's not. It is constantly changing. One day you'll feel better about it. One day you'll feel like, oh, it's drudgery. One day you'll want to go for hours. There's like different sensations that come with it. Um, when I use the symbology, I'm using it for one main reason, and that is to take what you've created and give it a place to go and to refocus and to set. So each thing you do in the movement part, when it involves symbology, has a reason. Every single thing has a reason. Nothing is haphazard. So I know that vibration works on more fluid and softness. However, there is also angles and different fields of complexities that feel like they're jabbing through. They're not all smooth and yummy, yummy. There's nothing wrong with having those because they're ways of moving and changing direction versus the
Yeah.
flow. So when I started V.E.M.S in the symbology, that took a little bit of time. That took most of the time of those 6 months to create. What symbology are we using? Because I am such a circular, round, spirally person. To put angles in brought me right back to my time in Egypt. So all of my lessons in Egypt all of a sudden came rushing in, and watching and getting that movement down. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I went to different forms of dance when I was abroad, and one was Sufism. Sufism is the Whirling Dervishes. So they stand there with these big skirts, men mostly, and they spin. And they spin and spin and spin, and they spin so much that they are standing still. To themselves, they're standing still, and the world is turning. And I've experienced it, so I know it's
Oh,
true.
wow.
It is almost,
Yeah.
it is surreal, but it's real. It's a
Yeah.
surreal
Yeah.
surreality, but it is a reality. Surreal reality.
Mm.
It is true. So when we go to stop from spinning, you drag your foot and then you focus on the foot so you can drag, because if you are not focusing on something, you'll get so dizzy when you get out of it. Like you see kids spin until they fall over.
Yeah.
Well, the dervishes spin, and when you're spinning like that, you don't want to. No, that's not a fall over moment.
Yeah. I was gonna say how like
It's so crazy, but
that's interesting.
we should do that. We should get a group together and just do that so you could all feel it. Anyway, with V.E.M.S, it was about taking that information.
Probably fall. Sorry, I would probably fall.
Honestly, I think you wouldn't, because you
Oh,
spin as fast as you're ready to accept the spinning.
uh, okay.
You can't spin
That
faster.
makes sense.
Yeah, it's fearlessness. If you're fearless about the spinning, then you spin a lot. If you have any fear, you're gonna watch it. Listen, your subconscious wants you to live. It thinks you're trying to kill yourself. So you have to like ease it into the facts. So I don't think you'd fall, but we'd make sure that someone's around. So if you're gonna fall, we'd catch you.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's more like a stumble because you're not spinning that fast than it is a fall.
Got it.
Anyway, let's go on. So the symbology that I'm using is, I mean, I can see it in the hieroglyphics of all the different studies I did in Egypt. I can see all of it in there, all the movements, all the bringing in, all the raising and the lowering and the in and the out. All of that I can see in my past understanding of ceremony I've done in Egypt. So it wasn't difficult to finally say, oh, I have to think this way, because it was like coming, like, oh, all right. So hieroglyphs, Mount Sinai, oh yeah, right. Phoenicians, okay, and look at the angles. Even their hats were angled up with the circle at the top. So
Mm,
they were always directing the above and the
yeah,
below. But from above, it came to the below, and from the below, it shot out to the above. I mean, that is the symbology of that whole thing, right? So
yeah.
adding the symbols into V.E.M.S at the point where I have them at the end, which is really like the third part of V.E.M.S now, is about taking what you've created, keeping and also releasing. So your space becomes back to the one you live in, not one you have to decipher through all the time.
Yeah,
That's
which I love and I'm grateful for.
Does that answer your question?
It
Okay.
does for sure. So, I mean, we basically went through the questions that I had in regards to VEMS. I absolutely, you know, it's been a beautiful journey when it comes to the VEMS modality. I enjoy utilizing it. I enjoy trying to perfect it, if there's anything such as perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
You've done
you
a
know,
lot better since we've had a few more instructions on it. You've changed. See, even in
yeah,
the extra instruction, you have changed how you did it.
yeah. Yeah. And again, like, I always love to challenge myself too. And I always love to just, I, I know I'll never be perfect at something, but if I can do it better next time, let me do it better next time. If I can get it right, get closer to whatever it is, let me do it.
So
Um,
let me tell
so
you
yeah,
this first before you go on. VEMS is made on top of sound, right? You get a
yes,
sound, you put it on, you listen to the sound, and you go through the movements, and then you get to the hang drum where the hang drum woman is playing. And you go from one sounding in shadow, then you go into another sounding, which is the movement, and you still finish in that sound for the symbology at the end, right?
correct.
So, what do you think is happening to that music? Everyone has the same music. They all have it sent to them, they all work with it. That's what you're doing. What's happening to the music?
It's like a transition,
It's
like it's, or I'm gonna say it's, yeah, like moving you from that shadow aspect to the the sound and movement part.
right, that's what you're doing with it, but what are you
Yeah.
doing to it?
Hmm. I would say like this is me, right? So like I go from inside. Oh, I guess I'm interrogating. I'm not interrogating. What's the word, the verbiage I want to use? Um, Bringing together, right? Both my shadow and my light into one, with the sound and movement aspect of it. Almost like accepting whatever it was in that shadow, right? That was coming up, but also moving through it with the sound and the movement.
That's still what's the sound doing for you. So let me tell you the answer.
Okay, yeah. That
The answer is you're impressing your movement and your thems onto that soundtrack.
okay.
It's taking it from you because everything's vibration. You are listening, but you are part of that music. What you're doing with it over and over in repetition, that sound is absorbing from not just you, from everyone who is doing VEMS
Oh,
anywhere.
wow.
So it's layering itself. So you can just listen to the music and do nothing. Let's say you're doing something in the kitchen or whatever, and you can just let that music run and the benefits will come to you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know you mentioned that this weekend. I meant to bring that up actually because you were like, if you can just listen to it, like instead of doing my meditation, to use the VEM sound and do the VEM sound in the morning, which I haven't actually tried yet. So I think I'm going to try it tomorrow
You can definitely use the
or
VEM
today.
sounds or right now as soon as we
What?
get done, because this is Andrea and Andrea doesn't wait.
No, I need to wait. So I'm going to do it
No, no,
tomorrow.
you can do it today. It's all right. But if let's say you do a meditation, like you do affirmations, whatever you do, and you're saying them,
Yeah.
let the sound run. Let the
Yeah.
sound, let that be the sound you're listening to while you're doing that and see the difference in your day.
Yeah. I'm going to do it.
There's so many,
I love your little projects that just
yeah,
come up out of nowhere.
this is I told this to the girls, you weren't there then, about how to use this on its own. Please let it run. And we did that for like, I don't know, a few months. Just put VEMS on it, like for Fran at work. She's stressed out, she can't stand. I said, put VEMS on, like the solfeggio sounds that everyone is now
Yeah.
using, which are fantastic. but they're really long. It's like 8 hours. So we got one down to 8 minutes, and
Yeah,
but if V.E.M.S already has all this healing on it and the ability that you have to heal, self-healing on it, why not use that? And so that's when it became use the sound of V.E.M.S, 8 minutes. You know how long it takes? It's 8 minutes. That's how long.
yeah,
It is. Yeah. So they got some
yeah.
good results from it. I think some people broke blocks in their writing. Other people broke blocks in just their ADHD. There's a
Just from
lot of
listening.
things that happen from sound, and when
Yeah,
you work the sound, some people have never done V.E.M.S. They just like the sound. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
because they're getting a benefit outside of just what the sound means to them. The movement and all that is impressed, and it's been there for like years now.
That's beautiful.
Also got the most video watches since it came out. People are still watching, listening to it, because on the website also have how to do it. It's not exactly
Yeah,
right, but at least they have an idea. So they are doing some of it. So
yeah.
there's nothing negative on it. That's the good part.
No, yeah, for sure. No, I'm grateful for it. It's made changes in my life, or has, at least has helped me on my journey, making those changes. So, I'm grateful for it, and I love it, and I love, um, just trying it new. Like you said, like this new like, because my understanding of it was, we did the movement and sound part first, and then we did the shadow, incorporated it then, and then now it was, both again with some changes. And so now to even know that, you could just use the sound, right? Just for if you're having a bad day or if you're at work and you take a 5 minute, 10 minute break just to go walk, you could quickly pop these in your ears,
Absolutely.
play the sound and go back in and have a completely different
Just
day.
from listening. Also, I
Yeah,
mean, I give people breath patterning techniques so that they can do things quickly. Like, let's say someone said something to you and it just startled you, and you're like, and you can't believe they just said that, or they did, like, oh my God, like even I almost had a car accident, that feeling, that rush feeling of fear. So
yeah, yeah,
you're not going to listen to 8 minutes of V.E.M.S, but you can do breath patterning, which we also teach at Insights. That'll
correct.
take you right out of it. There's
Yeah,
so many
with
things to do, but V.E.M.S itself is a 8 minute life-changing, self-healing modality.
yeah, and I'm just grateful that you're sharing it with the world. Mhm.
Yeah, you're welcome. Everyone asks me why you're doing that. I'm doing that because when you succeed, I succeed. And the sooner
Yeah,
everyone understands that, the better it'll be. But I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but I sure hope whoever I'm impressing on will then impress to the next person.
absolutely, and I mean, for me, I know that like, it's my calling, right? Like, whatever I learn, I love to teach, I love to show people because, I mean, yeah, I also, I'm open to it, especially when it comes to natural things, when it comes to, growing and evolving while we're on this planet, just like the plants, just like nature does, right? So, I just want to evolve with it. And so if I learn something, like I do like to teach it sometimes. If people are open to it, or if they even ask me. If they don't ask me, I'm not, it's not something that I might go out of my way for, but um, yeah,
I
I'm
think
just grateful.
I think it's important that you do start teaching VEMS. You have to finish going through some more education on it just so that you can explain and know when not to explain. So the
Yeah,
key is not always talking about it. Sometimes it's like, don't say anything and let them tell you, then you know where they are. That comes
yeah,
with a more education and understanding of it, because VEMS is complex. Now you know way more than you did before when you were just doing
yeah,
it. And now you'll when you're doing it, you're going to think, oh, so this is what she was talking about. This is what, and it becomes this very deep and now pharaonic, because
yeah,
we have the Egyptian pharaoh information in there too. Some of the best magical people on the planet were them back then, like the Mayans. I mean, how do these people know this stuff? So it's kind of interesting to watch the fields move around people as they're growing with you. So I just think you'd be great at teaching it. But we'll talk about that
yeah,
after. So
yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to add onto this podcast a V.E.M.S that another insider has done already. It has almost everything in it. I'm not putting everything up because I don't want people to try things and not take them in increments. So this is going to be the whole 8 minutes. There will be some changes that have been made since this one that you're not going to see unless you decide you want to contact us and we can tell you the differences. Um, and at least you'll get to see what is V.E.M.S in movement, in action. So that'll run right after we're done talking. I'll put it right up with this. So it'll be part of the V.E.M.S podcast. So thank you so
And
much,
I'm
Andrea.
sure they're gonna love it. I think it's gonna be a hit. I really do. And what I mean by that is just, I know that from my observation, more and more people are also just not trusting the pharmaceutical industry anymore, and they're just not trusting a lot. So when someone's introducing something as simple as some movements and some sounds, I
Yeah,
don't think it's gonna be as hard to be like, why not try that?
I am
Like
100% with you on that.
use.
And then when it's as simple as watch and listen, because what we're going to do
Yeah,
now with the girl that's on, you're going to watch her, you're going to listen to the music, you're going to hear her. Some of the things you will not be able to hear because it's muffled, because she wasn't doing that, so you could hear her. Um, but at least you'll get an idea.
yeah. I'm excited for them to see. Well,
Uh,
I appreciate you having me. It's been truly a pleasure. I love my V.E.M.S modality and just learning more and more, trying to perfect it, even though, it's okay. But I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's truly been a pleasure.
well, thank you so much, Andrea. How can people find you if they want to locate you?
Yeah, so I do currently have an Instagram. You can follow me on my Instagram. It's called Love Galore, but LOVEGALORE.
So Love
So,
Galore, but just as a dot after the L.
yep, correct.
Otherwise, it's Love Galore, just the dot in it. Okay, that's
Yep.
easy. That's easy.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so you can find me everywhere, Lady Colleen Heller on and everywhere. So you just punch it in and it'll come up. You Google it, it's pretty like this big thing comes up of it because I've been doing this for years. And before people thought that you should record, I was. So that was good. I don't know
Yeah.
everything. Lived a
I'm
lot of
glad that you
in a
did.
lot of countries. I lost a lot of my videos and photos, but anyway, so next time, we'll see. We don't know what the topic's going to be yet. However, please stay right on because the next part is the V.E.M.S modality for your enjoyment. And have a fabulous day. Bye, Andrea.
Bye.
And now I'm happy to introduce you to V.E.M.S, Protocol for Total Alignment, which means it's a vibrational, energetic, movement, and sound protocol. This is a shortened version of V.E.M.S, the healing modality, for you to listen to on Spotify and watch on YouTube. Please enjoy.
gratitude, I let you go. For you and for me. I'm sorry. Please forgive